You've probably noticed it by now. Same kind of relationship, same emotional spiral, same financial ceiling, different places, different people, same feeling. It's like you've lived this scene before, not once, not twice, but 100 times in different disguises. And no matter what you change on the outside, some invisible thread pulls you back to the same result. That's not bad luck. That's not coincidence. That's a pattern. And the truth is, you're not stuck because you're broken. You're stuck because you haven't decoded the cycle yet. This pattern you keep reliving, it's not random, it's not punishment, it's a message. And it's written in the one language the universe never mistranslates: repetition. You'll keep seeing the same reflection until you stop blaming the mirror and start asking, why does this story keep choosing me? Because what you call your life is often just your loop, your unprocessed wounds playing out in slow motion, disguised as reality. But this video isn't about coping, it's about seeing. Because once you spot the pattern, you take away its power. And once you take away its power, you start to remember something the loop worked very hard to make you forget. You were never meant to repeat this forever. You're here to rewrite it. Most people try to fix the pattern at the surface. They change jobs, leave relationships, move cities, clean their diet, rewrite their affirmations, and for a moment, things shift. But then, almost like magic, it comes back. The same emotion, the same tension, the same familiar ache. Why? Because you didn't heal the root. You only repainted the mask. You see, these patterns you're living aren't just mental habits, they're energetic blueprints, wired deep in your system, sometimes before you were even born. Some come from early childhood, a need to please because love once felt conditional, a fear of abandonment because safety was tied to silence, a drive to achieve because your worth was measured in performance. Others come from lineage, emotional debts inherited through DNA, beliefs passed down not through words, but through survival. And some come from even further back. Patterns carried over from lives you no longer remember, but still react to. Contracts signed in lifetimes long gone. Vows made in moments of trauma. Attachments that feel ancient because they are. Your soul chose this lifetime, not as a blank slate, but as a continuation, a karmic checkpoint. You're not here to suffer endlessly. You're here because this lifetime contains a unique alignment, a specific energetic window that allows this old pattern to finally be seen, felt, and released. But here's the part the system doesn't want you to know. You can't think your way out of a pattern that was created through feeling. You have to meet it where it lives, in the body, in the breath, in the hidden corners of your nervous system that still flinch when life looks like love. Because the pattern isn't just external, it lives in you. And to dissolve it, you don't just change behavior, you reclaim the part of you that built it in the first place. Patterns aren't just emotional loops, they're identity holders. You don't just repeat a situation, you become the version of you that belongs in it. Every time the pattern resurfaces, it pulls you back into a role, the one who always fixes, the one who always apologizes, the one who never asks for too much, the one who needs to prove, please, chase, or suffer to earn safety. And because this role feels familiar, it feels like you, but it's not. It's a survival costume, and it was designed, brilliantly, to keep you functioning inside a system that was never designed for your wholeness. So here's the paradox. To break the pattern, you have to be willing to lose the version of you that the pattern made necessary. That means letting go of the need to be liked, letting go of the belief that love must feel like work, letting go of the identity built on waiting, shrinking, fixing, performing. And that's terrifying, because the ego doesn't fear pain, it fears uncertainty. It would rather stay in a predictable cycle of suffering than step into the unknown of authenticity. But you're not here to keep playing a role. You're here to reclaim the author. The truth is, the pattern can't exist without your participation. It feeds on your agreement. It survives through your repetition. It needs you to forget that you built it, so it can keep building you. But the moment you become aware of this, the moment you feel the loop rising and choose not to act from it, not out of fear, not out of habit, not out of guilt, you introduce chaos into the code. And chaos is the birthplace of freedom, because when you disrupt your usual response, you disconnect from the identity that was wired to survive inside the loop. You create space, and that space, it's sacred. It's the place where the pattern no longer recognizes you, and without you, it starts to collapse. But this isn't easy, because the pattern will fight back. It'll whisper, "This is who you are. This is how life works. This is how it's always been." And in that moment, you face the real test. Do you listen to the past version of you that the world molded? Or do you listen to the part of you that's been buried beneath the noise, waiting for this exact moment to rise? The pattern ends the moment you stop being the person it needs you to be. If this is starting to feel too familiar, like something you've lived 1,000 times before, subscribe and hit the bell, because what comes next isn't just content, it's your signal. There's a split-second moment before every pattern repeats, a tiny opening, quiet, weightless, right before the reaction kicks in. That moment is everything, because in that space, you are neither your past nor your programming. You are pure potential. And this is where transformation begins, not in grand awakenings, but in micro-decisions made inside the pause. That pause is sacred because it's the only place where the pattern has no power, unless you give it some. The problem is, we don't pause. We react, we defend, we explain, we comply. We do what we've always done because it's faster, safer, automatic. But automatic is how the loop survives. It needs your reflexes. It needs your old wiring. It needs you too busy to question what you're acting out. So here's the disruption. You stop. You feel instead of fix. You breathe instead of speak. You observe instead of obey. And in doing that, you short-circuit the loop. Not forever, not at first, but enough to fracture the rhythm. And that fracture is everything. Because now, the pattern doesn't get a clean run. It stutters, it struggles, it tries to rebuild itself, but you're no longer fully available. That pause becomes a portal, a doorway into a version of you that doesn't play the same role. And the more often you choose the pause, the more access you gain to that self. This is what the mystics meant by be still and know. Not stillness for silence's sake, but stillness as a weapon of awareness. You start to notice what used to go unnoticed, that the same emotions rise in the same sequence, that the same thoughts lead to the same outcomes, that the body tightens in the same spot before the pattern takes over. And you begin to anticipate it, not fearfully, but masterfully, because now you see the cycle not as a trap, but as a training ground. Each loop is a classroom. Each reaction is a syllabus. Each repetition is a rehearsal for the moment you choose differently. And with every pause you protect, every breath you reclaim, every default you defy, you turn your nervous system into a sanctuary, one where the pattern can no longer hide, because now you're not running the program, you're rewriting it. Repetition is usually dismissed as failure. We tell ourselves, I thought I healed this. Why is this happening again? Haven't I already dealt with this? But that mindset is part of the trap, because patterns don't repeat to punish you. They repeat to refine you. Every return is a chance to see more, to choose cleaner, to break deeper. Not all growth is vertical. Some growth spirals. You revisit the same lesson, but with different awareness, different tools, different truth. What looked like chaos last time, this time feels like clarity. What triggered you last month, this time barely touches your field. What broke you 2 years ago now bends around your boundaries. That's not failure. That's recalibration. It means your nervous system is stabilizing. It means your awareness is stretching. It means your soul is no longer running from the lesson. It's integrating it. This is the point where everything starts to change. You stop asking, when will this end? And start asking, what is this here to teach me now? Because life will keep handing you the same message until you shift from resistance to relationship. You begin to track the pattern like a scientist. You see how it attaches to language, how you speak about yourself, your past, your limits. You catch how it lives in your posture, your reactions, your silences. And the more you see, the more you separate from it. Not dissociate, but disidentify. You are not the reaction. You are the observer of it, the one who can feel the rise and still remain centered. And in that centeredness, repetition becomes revelation. You begin to decode the deeper intelligence underneath the loop. What you thought was self-sabotage was actually unprocessed grief. What you called laziness was burnout from living out of alignment. What you thought was fear of failure was a deep trauma around being fully seen. These are not flaws. They're fragments of you calling for return. And as each fragment returns, not as a trigger, but as a teacher, the pattern dissolves, not by force, by truth. Because the real pattern isn't the experience, it's the unconscious response to it. And the moment that response becomes conscious, you've already begun to exit the loop, not because the external has changed, but because you have. There comes a moment in the unwinding of every deep pattern where something subtle but irreversible clicks. Not an explosion, not a grand awakening, just a quiet, cellular decision. I don't live there anymore. You stop engaging, stop explaining, stop returning to the rooms that echo with your old frequency. And not because you hate what was, not because you're angry or trying to prove a point, but because you've outgrown the resonance. This is the true exit point, not when the pattern disappears, but when you become unavailable to it. The version of you who used to get pulled in, they're no longer online. Now, when the bait is dropped, the same conversation, the same trigger, the same temptation, you feel it. But you don't bite. You watch it arise. You feel the urge. You hear the narrative begin to replay. And then, you don't act from it. You don't collapse into it. You observe, and you choose otherwise. This is what real power feels like. Not dramatic, not loud, just undeniable alignment. And here's where the universe responds. Because when you become unavailable to the old timeline, new ones start to appear. Not instantly, not always clearly, but subtly. In the background, you meet people who feel like future. You have conversations that shift something permanent. You feel moments of peace you didn't earn. Because peace is no longer a prize, it's a baseline. And your field, it starts filtering reality differently. Your nervous system doesn't brace for war. Your breath doesn't stall when the phone rings. Your body doesn't flinch when it's time to speak truth. You're not reacting anymore. You're transmitting. You've become a new signal, and the simulation has no choice but to adjust around you. This is embodiment. It's not pretending to be evolved. It's moving in such integrity with your soul that anything that doesn't match simply can't enter. It's not rejection, it's resonance. And now that you're holding it, the old pattern doesn't know where to land. It keeps knocking, but you're not home. Just when you think it's over, just when your field has stabilized, just when you feel free, the pattern knocks again. But this time, it doesn't look broken. It looks beautiful. It comes back as the one thing you swore you wanted, a familiar voice with a different tone, an old dynamic dressed up as growth, an opportunity that almost feels aligned, but not quite. And here's the catch. It doesn't come to test your strength. It comes to test your clarity. Because the final loop doesn't challenge your wounds, it challenges your standard. It asks, are you still available for what no longer reflects who you've become? Are you willing to say no, not out of fear, but out of alignment? This is the last flicker of the code, the simulation checking if it can still hook you with a better version of the same trap. And it's tempting, because it feels like progress. It feels like healing. It feels like the reward for all the work you've done. But deep down, you feel the static, not loud, but present. That micro misalignment, that almost right energy, that feeling in your chest that says, this is close, but not truth. And this moment, right here, this is the real graduation. Because in this moment, you're no longer choosing between good and bad. You're choosing between almost and full truth. And choosing truth, choosing yourself without compromise, that's what closes the loop. Not because you force it to end, but because you're finally too clear to repeat what you already know. From here on, there's no reset. There's only refinement. You're not escaping anymore. You're expanding. The simulation can't recycle you because you're no longer running the old program. You're broadcasting something it doesn't recognize, a version of you that doesn't need to learn the lesson again because you've become it. You were never meant to just survive your story. You were meant to rewrite its code. The cycle didn't repeat to trap you. It repeated to awaken you, to remind you that what you thought was fate was actually feedback. The pain wasn't personal, it was patterned. And now, after all the spirals, all the false exits, all the quiet revolutions inside you, you've seen it for what it is, a mirror, not a map. It reflected the you that once needed protection, validation, control. But you don't move from those places anymore. You've outgrown the loop because you've outgrown the version of you that kept it spinning. This is the truth most never reach. You don't break the pattern by force. You break it by no longer matching it. The conversations don't land, the old hooks don't catch. The same people show up, but you're different. And that difference, it's not in how you act, it's in what you emanate. You walk with presence now. You speak from clarity, not defense. You choose from alignment, not fear. And when the pattern tries to return, there's nowhere left to plug in. You've gone dark to the old script, and in that darkness, a new current emerges. You're no longer the character repeating the scene. You are the field rewriting the film. So now the only question left is, what kind of reality are you ready to generate? Now that the old one no longer fits your frequency, leave it below, because someone still inside the loop is watching, and your transmission might be the code that wakes them up.